Absolutely ridiculousness.
Caitlin Clark has gotten the WNBA over the necessary threshold they needed. Now people are watching. Now we realize, oh, there's talent in the W. Talent that's actually even greater than Caitlin Clark. And I'm not just talking about bigs like Asia. I'm talking about the Olivia Miles. I'm talking about the Paige Beckers. Hell, I'm talking about the Kelsey Mitchells. Caitlin got the necessary eyes there. But now that the eyes are there, we don't necessarily need her anymore. Caitlin did what only Caitlin could do, and we don't necessarily need her to do anymore. Thank you, Caitlin.
We've talked about this numerous times. Once Caitlin leaves, the eyes are gone. When Jordan left the NBA, the eyes left. When Mike Tyson left boxing, the eyes left. When De La Hoya left boxing, the eyes left. When Mayweather leaves boxing, the eyes left. When McGregor left the UFC, the eyes left. To think that the audience is going to carry over, Emmanuel Acho, put down the pipe.
And take it from here. Now you're saying that the WNBA needs to be cognizant of where they put Caitlin Clark on posters. The WNBA and the officials need to alter the rules for Caitlin Clark. The WNBA and opposing players need to treat Caitlin Clark more gently. Caitlin Clark's coach needs to be cognizant of how she talks to her in public because it's going to look like there's an issue. Unless we can take off our gloves for Caitlin Clark and stop trying to act like she's a messiah, the WNBA could and would be better off without Caitlin Clark, at least without this.
See, when they call her the messiah, that's framing the conversation.
The conversation around Caitlin Clark has never been just about basketball, and that's exactly why Stephen A. Smith's latest comments landed with so much force. What began as another television debate quickly turned into one of the biggest discussions surrounding the WNBA, because it touched on a question that fans, analysts, and even players continue to argue over: how much of the league's recent surge in attention can truly be credited to Caitlin Clark? Stephen A. Smith didn't avoid that question. Instead, he argued that Clark's arrival dramatically increased attention on the league, pointing to packed arenas, higher television interest, sponsorship opportunities, and growing visibility. His comments immediately became a focal point because they echoed what many fans had been saying while also challenging others who believed the story was far more complicated. That debate quickly expanded beyond one player. Critics argued that the WNBA's foundation was built by generations of stars long before Clark entered the league, while supporters countered that acknowledging those pioneers doesn't prevent people from recognizing Clark's impact on attracting new audiences. Those competing viewpoints transformed a simple sports discussion into a much broader conversation about recognition, legacy, and the future direction of the league. The reason this story refuses to fade is that both sides are talking about different parts of the same picture. One side focuses on decades of work that established the league, while the other emphasizes the unprecedented attention the league has received in recent months. Instead of settling the issue, every new interview, television segment, and social media reaction seems to add another layer to the discussion. As the clips spread across television and social platforms, the conversation became less about whether people agreed with Stephen A. Smith and more about why his remarks resonated so strongly. Were they simply reflecting what fans were already thinking, or did they amplify a controversy that was already beginning to divide the basketball community? That question became the center of the debate, and the reactions that followed only made it even harder to ignore. As the conversation grew louder, it became clear that this was no longer just a debate about Caitlin Clark. It had evolved into a much bigger question about how the WNBA's success should be measured and who deserves recognition for bringing the league to this point. That's why the discussion became so emotional. It wasn't simply about statistics or television ratings, it was about history, legacy, and how different generations of players should be remembered. One side of the debate argued that Clark's arrival introduced millions of new viewers to the WNBA. Commentators pointed to increased attention, sold-out arenas, larger television audiences, and new sponsorship opportunities, arguing that her popularity created momentum the league had never experienced on the same scale. In that view, recognizing Clark's impact isn't about diminishing anyone else, it's about acknowledging the measurable attention surrounding her arrival. Others pushed back just as strongly. They argued that today's opportunities exist because generations of WNBA players spent decades building the league despite financial challenges, lower visibility, and limited resources. During the discussion, veteran stars such as Cynthia Cooper, Lisa Leslie, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, Sue Bird, and Aya Wilson were mentioned as examples of players whose contributions helped establish the league long before the recent surge in interest. What makes this conversation different is that these viewpoints don't necessarily cancel each other out. A league can be built over many years by countless players while also experiencing a dramatic increase in attention because of a new superstar. Those ideas can exist together, yet public debate often presents them as if viewers must choose one side or the other. That tension has only been amplified by television debates and social media, where short clips often highlight the strongest opinions while leaving out the nuance. A single statement can spread across platforms within hours, generating thousands of reactions before the full conversation is even heard. As more people join the discussion, the focus shifts from basketball itself to competing narratives about credit, fairness, and recognition. This is why Stephen A. Smith's remarks became more than another sports opinion. They tapped into an argument that had already been building beneath the surface, forcing fans, analysts, and media personalities to confront a larger question: can the league celebrate the pioneers who laid its foundation while also acknowledging the extraordinary attention Caitlin Clark has helped bring today? How that question is answered may shape the conversation around the WNBA long after this particular debate fades. As the debate gained momentum, another layer of the story began attracting attention. The narration surrounding the discussion became far more dramatic, describing an administrative meltdown, executive panic, legal action, and even alleged leaked recordings. Those claims created a sense of urgency, but they also raised an important question: which parts of the story are supported by the transcript, and which are simply narrative interpretation? One point that can be verified is Stephen A. Smith's own commentary. He argued that Caitlin Clark has had a major impact on the league's visibility, discussing attendance, television interest, sponsorship opportunities, and the broader attention surrounding the WNBA. Those remarks are part of the recorded discussion and can be directly attributed to him. Likewise, other commentators offered differing opinions, including the argument that the league was built by generations of players before Clark's arrival. Those are confirmed viewpoints expressed in the transcript, even if viewers disagree with them. The narration, however, goes much further. It describes a violent administrative meltdown, claims that executives were panicking behind closed doors, refers to a coordinated legal rebellion, and repeatedly mentions alleged secret locker room recordings that supposedly prove institutional failure. While these statements are presented dramatically, the transcript itself does not provide independent evidence to substantiate those claims. That distinction matters because commentary and verified information are not the same thing. A commentator can express an opinion based on publicly available events, while a narrator may use dramatic language to increase tension. Viewers should separate what is directly shown or quoted from broader conclusions that are asserted without supporting documentation. Understanding that difference doesn't make the debate any less compelling, it makes it easier to evaluate. The verified discussion already presents a genuine disagreement over Caitlin Clark's impact in the league's future. The more sensational claims may heighten suspense, but they should be treated as unverified unless supported by reliable evidence. And once those distinctions become clear, another question naturally follows. Why did Stephen A. Smith's comments, rather than the dramatic narration, become the part of the story that resonated most with audiences? What made Stephen A. Smith's comments spread so quickly wasn't just the opinion itself, it was who was delivering it. As one of the most recognizable voices in sports media, his reactions often become part of the story rather than simply commentary about it. When he addressed Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA, viewers knew the discussion would reach far beyond a single television segment, drawing responses from fans, analysts, and other media personalities almost immediately. His argument centered on a straightforward point: Clark's arrival had brought unprecedented attention to the league. He referenced increased visibility, stronger television interest, sponsorship opportunities, attendance, and merchandise, arguing that her popularity had helped elevate the WNBA to a larger audience. Whether viewers agreed with every conclusion or not, those comments gave supporters and critics alike a clear position to respond to. Part of the reason the discussion gained so much traction is that it touched on an issue already dividing basketball fans. Some believed Smith was simply acknowledging a visible shift in public interest, while others felt the conversation risked overshadowing the decades of work done by veteran players who helped build the league. Those competing interpretations ensured that nearly every clip shared online generated another round of debate instead of ending the conversation. The format of modern sports media also played a major role. Television debates are designed to present contrasting viewpoints, and short clips from those discussions often circulate independently on social media. Once individual moments are separated from the full conversation, they can reach millions of viewers who respond to a single quote rather than the broader context. As a result, every repost, reaction video, and headline introduce the topic to another audience, extending the life of the debate far beyond its original broadcast. Perhaps the biggest reason Smith's comments resonated is that they focused on a question many fans were already asking: what has changed around the WNBA over the past year, and what factors are driving that change? His remarks gave that ongoing discussion a recognizable voice, making it easier for supporters and critics to frame their own arguments. In that sense, the influence came from both the message and the messenger. Once one of sports media's most prominent commentators weighed in, the conversation expanded from a basketball debate into a broader discussion about media narratives, public perception, and how the league's growth should be understood, and that wider conversation was only beginning. As the television debate gained momentum, the reaction quickly spread far beyond the studio. Fans, former players, media personalities, and casual viewers all began weighing in, turning a single discussion into one of the most talked about topics surrounding the WNBA. What made the conversation stand out wasn't that everyone agreed or disagreed, it was that people were debating entirely different questions at the same time. Many supporters of Caitlin Clark argued that her impact was impossible to ignore. They pointed to increased television ratings, sold-out arenas, growing sponsorship opportunities, and the influx of new fans who began following the league after her arrival. From that perspective, recognizing Clark's influence wasn't about diminishing anyone else's accomplishments. It was simply acknowledging that her popularity had introduced the WNBA to audiences who may not have been paying attention before. That viewpoint closely aligned with the comments made during the televised discussion. Others viewed the conversation very differently. They believed that focusing too heavily on one player overlooked the generations of athletes who helped establish the league through years of dedication, often without the same level of media attention or financial support. During the discussion, several veteran stars were mentioned as examples of players whose contributions shaped the WNBA long before its recent surge in visibility. For many fans, preserving that historical perspective was just as important as acknowledging today's success. Another point of disagreement centered on the media itself. Some viewers argued that television debates and social media clips tend to emphasize conflict because disagreement attracts attention. Others believed the media was simply reflecting conversations that were already taking place among fans. Neither interpretation has produced a clear consensus, which helps explain why the debate continues to resurface whenever new interviews, highlights, or opinions emerge. What becomes clear from these reactions is that the controversy has grown beyond the original comments. It now reflects broader questions about recognition, legacy, media influence, and the challenges that come with rapid growth. Those issues don't have simple answers, which is why the discussion has remained active long after the initial broadcast. In the end, the persistence of this debate reveals something larger than a disagreement over one player or one television segment. It shows that as the WNBA continues to reach new audiences, conversations about its history, its present success, and its future direction are becoming increasingly intertwined. The opinions may differ, but together they point to a league receiving more attention than ever before, and that leaves one final question still unresolved: where does the conversation go from here? As the conversation continues, one thing is becoming increasingly clear: this debate is no longer centered on a single television segment or a single headline. It has evolved into a broader discussion about how the WNBA is changing, how those changes are interpreted, and how the league balances honoring its history while embracing a new wave of attention. The questions raised by Stephen A. Smith's comments are unlikely to disappear anytime soon because they touch on issues that extend far beyond one player. What remains unresolved is how future conversations will be framed. Will the focus stay on comparing today's stars with past generations, or will the discussion gradually shift toward how all of those contributions fit together? As new players emerge, rivalries develop, and the league continues to expand its audience, the way these stories are told may become just as important as the games themselves. Media coverage will also continue to play a significant role. Television debates, podcasts, and social media clips can bring new fans into the sport, but they can also amplify disagreements by highlighting the strongest opinions. That doesn't necessarily mean the debate is unhealthy. In many ways, passionate discussion is a sign that more people are paying attention, even if they don't all reach the same conclusions. At the same time, the transcript itself demonstrates why it's important to separate verified statements from speculation. Some of the strongest reactions came from documented comments made during televised discussions, while other dramatic claims presented by the narrator remain unsupported within the transcript. Keeping that distinction in mind allows viewers to focus on the evidence while still engaging with the broader conversation. Ultimately, the future of this discussion won't be determined by one commentator, one player, or one viral clip. It will be shaped by what happens on the court, how the league continues to grow, and how fans, players, and media choose to interpret that growth. The debate over Caitlin Clark's impact may never produce a single answer, but it has already accomplished something significant. It has encouraged more people to watch, analyze, and participate in conversations about the WNBA. As the league enters its next chapter, the biggest question is no longer whether people are paying attention, but how that attention will influence the stories still being written.